snow. It's not mine.
Testing.
No, so it's got to be someone's.
It's that one before you. Sounds like it's. Been there, done that. Oh. Am I on the right one? No, I'm not. Shucks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention before we begin this meeting? We ask that everyone silence your cell phones. The Fort Bend ISD Board of Trustees is an open meeting for the public to observe the board conducting district business. Therefore, patrons may address the board during the designated audience items section on the agenda. If you have any printed materials you want to give to the board members, you must provide them to the board secretary, Jane Kaiser, or to me, and we will provide them to the board members. We also ask the members of the audience be respectful of others, remain quiet during the meeting so that everyone is able to hear the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Ontiveros. Would everyone please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag. Right?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our young people for leading us in the pledges this evening. What school are you from? Lake Olympia. Well, thank you for being here. We'll now hear from our board secretary, Mr. Bruce Albright, who will report on the activities of the board.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have board members that attended the artist teachers display in the admin building. We have board members that attended Meadows Elementary 40th reunion. We have board members that attended the Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce Education Luncheon on school finance. We have board members that attended varsity and junior varsity football games, all the schools. And we had board members that attended varsity and junior varsity and freshman volleyball games. We had board members that attended the State of Schools luncheon. We had board members that attended the Lakeview Elementary Open House. We had board members that attended the Education Futures Conference. We had board members that attended the ESCH Luncheon honoring Ridgemont Early Childhood Center. We had board members that attended the TASA and TASB Annual Convention in Dallas, Texas. We had board members that attended the CUBE Convention in San Antonio, Texas. We had board members that attended the College Fair for Fort Bend ISD. And we had board members that attended Fort Bend ISD Band Night. And I think that concludes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Albright.
Mr. Rice, if I could just make a comment.
Yes.
The Meadows 40th reunion, Grail and I attended that, and Mr. Dupree, several, Dr. Hill, Javier, Mr. Villarreal. Anyway, there were several of us there, and I just wanted to say again, Michelle did a great job, the principal at Meadows, putting on the whole affair. They had staffs and all the principals that have ever served at Meadows. Miss Ledger was there in place of Mr. Ledger, who opened the school. He's since passed away, but his wife was there. And then they had each staff, the staff that were there at the reunion, come up on stage with each different principal. And I was really excited. I was there as a student teacher the year the school opened, and there were probably 16 or so of us from that first year. And one friend of mine, Joy, is still there. And she came the first year the school opened, or maybe the second school year, actually. And she retired from there, and then she stayed out a year, and now she's back teaching full-time. Remember her at the new teacher orientation? She was at the new teacher orientation. It was a great event. They just did a wonderful job, and it was so exciting to be there. I was really glad to be a part of it.
Thank you, Mrs. Holmbaum. Mrs. James, did you want to add to that?
Well, I will ditto what she said. It was very, very nice and very impressive. In the 40 years of that school, there have only been 6 principals, and it was impressive to see the longevity of the staff there. And it's really a unique environment, and it was really exciting and a joy. But really, Mr. Rice, what I'm going to report about is my trip, the last 2 conferences I've attended, and that is one, the TASA TASB conference, which several of the administration were there, as well as Mr. Rice and Mr. Albright. And I served as a delegate for TASB, and there were about 400 delegates that participated in the annual meeting. We revised the bylaws, did really exciting stuff like that, and the cornerstone principles, and some of the but most interestingly was the advocacy resolutions. Because those are the things that the TASB as an organization will bring forward and bring into discussion with the legislature over the next couple of years. So it was very interesting, and I enjoyed serving as a delegate very much. So thank you for that opportunity. And we also attended a number of workshops, including a Jason Learning Program. Dr. Whitbeck was there. A lot of information on test data evaluation and the appropriate use of that test data. So that was very interesting. Some board governance things. A workshop on superintendent evaluation. So looking forward to putting my ideas into work soon. But another, of course, a great opportunity was the networking opportunities available, both with so many of the new administrators to our district, but also with other board members across the state. So it was very, very enjoyable, and there were, I don't know how many thousands of people, probably 3,000 or 4,000 people, I think, in attendance overall, so it was pretty impressive. And next year, if you want to sign up, it's going to be in Dallas again. So I don't know if Dallas in September is really where people want to go for their weekend, but it was a nice event. Then the following weekend, Dr. Patsy Taylor and I went to the CUBE conference in San Antonio, and we spent the weekend there with some very enthusiastic and energetic workshops and speakers. And it was it was my first time. I got to wear a special ribbon that said first time attendee, and Dr. Taylor got to introduce me to a number of people, so that was very nice. We heard from the National Association of School Boards president, who spoke to us and was very enthusiastic. And Patsy and I happened to sit one day during the entire day with the executive director of TASB, and got to build a little relationship with him. So that was very, very nice, and we enjoyed it. The highlight for me was the final speaker. The closing day was a former teacher from the Long Beach area, Erin Gruelle. And you may have heard of the Freedom Writers movement and the Freedom Writers book. The movie, you might have seen the movie. Anyway, she is a teacher who came in as a brand new teacher in an urban district, was given a class of children that were all the cast-offs. Nobody else wanted them. They didn't like school. Some of them were there with their probation officers. Some had been incarcerated and had just come out of jail. It's just a horrible situation for a first-year teacher to be in. And she talked about how she, after she had handed out her syllabus and then received several of them back as paper airplanes, she changed her changed her approach, and she worked to meet them where they were and engage with them. And it was very, very exciting and very, very moving to hear her story. She showed some film clips, not the movie film clips, some actual film clips, because Connie Chung had done a news piece on her before the movie came out. So it's very, 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 very inspirational, and the piece that I brought home, and I know Dr. Taylor did too, was that there's a real sense that we need to reach every student, and every student that comes to us is important, and we have to feel that we can't treat it like a cookie cutter project. It's an individual. The student is an individual, and we need to meet them all where they are. So. Anyway, I will start crying if I talk anymore. Dr. Taylor, did I leave anything out that you might want to add?
Oh, no, you did. You did a very good job, but I do want to add that you got to understand these are school districts throughout the country, and there was only 2 districts in Texas that was present at the conference, and one of those districts, of course, was Fort Bend ISD. So I was very pleased, very honored that Fort Bend ISD was well represented in Ms. James and myself. One of the experiences that stood out, I guess, greatly to me was that we had a chance to visit one of the elementary schools that was suffering, I guess, in the reading program, literacy programs. And so what they did was they replaced, as you know, when kids transfer from class to class, you hear the bell rings. So they replaced it with music. And I just thought that was so exciting. Even the kids' behavior just changed when they heard the music. And in the conference, they talk a lot about meeting kids where they are. And so I thought that was very unique. From integrating the music during the transitions from class to class, like I said, the kids' behavior changed. Even some of the teachers were literally standing off the floor, jumping up and down, because the kids were supporting themselves. They saw an increase in their reading scores. There was so much that was going on. Even the principal, the superintendent came in, and even I saw it. I kind of got in with the little music too. I had to show them a few moves from Texas. But it was great. It was great. Aside from the reading, I think I heard the superintendent and the principal said that some other academic areas had improved as well, like your math, your spelling. So it was just a great and an awesome experience. And I would encourage anybody that if you had a chance to go to any of these CUBE conferences, it really gives you a reality check, because the focus is not just taking the kids on the bottom and bringing them up. They were starting with the kids on the top and moving those kids even higher, and the kids that was in the middle, they was moving those kids up as well. So I thought it was just an awesome kind of experience. And, Fort Bend can certainly benefit from some of the activities and some of the written material that we brought back with us. The last time I went, I told you I had 2 suitcases. This time I had 3. So I just encourage you to reach out, because it does encompass all the children. You're not leaving anybody out, and you are meeting those kids where they are. So I encourage you to attend the next time around. Very encouraging. And, I got to give kudos to the superintendent for just sending us there or putting that out, because most of your, I want to say, leadership, you just look at it sometimes tunnel vision, but he has like the peripheral and everything going on where he sees all children, and and I really support that, and I want to appreciate, and I want to say thank you again for offering that conference to us, because it is well worth it. So if you have a chance, if you hear me again, if you have a chance, please go out and attend some of the CUBE conferences, because it does address the current needs that are here in our school district.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Thank you, Mrs. James. Yes.
I'd like to say one other thing on a different topic. I've been to a few athletic events the last week or so, and I've seen a lot of pink tape and pink towels and pink everything, and pink trainer shirts. And I haven't seen the coaches wearing pink, but I have seen a lot of the students, and the Dig Pink volleyball games and all the things that are going on. And I just want to say thank you to Mr. O'Neill and the athletic department for encouraging the students to get involved in something that's outside of themselves, and in touch with the community, and in touch with just cancer awareness and breast cancer awareness. And as a daughter of somebody who passed away from breast cancer, it's particularly close to me. So I thank you to Mr. O'Neill for that, and Mr. Dupree for supporting that.
Thank you, Mrs. James. Any other comments from the board? I have one, and that is to say that the governor of Texas has proclaimed October as Principals Recognition Month. And so we wanted to use this opportunity to let all of our principals know how much we appreciate them for the job they do, because they have many roles on their campus as an instructional leader. In addition to that, they are community builders, they're role models, they're disciplinarians, they're guardians of policy mandates and initiatives, problem solvers, and they're responsible for the safety and well-being of every person who sets foot on that campus. They really have an awesome responsibility. And so I want to lift them up to you and ask you to respect our principals. And the next time you see one of them, thank our principals for the job that they're doing, because we couldn't have school without principals. It's probably the hardest job in the district, next to a board trustee, but just kidding. That is, being a principal is the hardest job. So we want to thank them for what they do every day to ensure that every one of our students has a high-quality education. Okay, now we're going to move into our audience items. We have a number of speakers this evening. Our first speaker is Mr. Chris Alfrey. Mr. Alfrey, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Mr. Albright will keep track of time and let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you, President, the board, and fellow trustees. I want to talk to you tonight about what happened in iAchieve. As you know, last month, the Gibson report came out. Many of us in the community had an idea what that Gibson report was going to say, because we didn't sit around and wait for somebody to tell us what was going to happen with our money. We took our own time, our own resources, our money, and we started investigating a long time ago about iAchieve. I don't have the benefit of what you have. You get to sit up there, you get all the information from these people. I have to rely on other people, I have to rely on the internet, I have to rely on my own resources. Why is that important? Because what I figured out on my own forensically is 4 companies submitted RFQs. 3 of those companies were not authorized to do business in Texas. One of those companies was owned by an individual that had a personal and professional relationship with the superintendent of this school district, and not one of you brought it up. 2 of you ran on iAchieve, and you had the guts to stand out to this community and stand out to other people and say, this is not right. We need to slow down. We need to look at this. We need to take our time. Unfortunately, the board didn't listen to those 2 people. The good thing is those 2 people saved us about $10 million. We only got $14 million down the road before we realized there was a problem. So one is, I want to congratulate those 2 board members. The other thing is, I want the rest of you to look at, we're relying on you. We don't get the information that you have. We have to rely on you to do your homework, to do your job, to go out there and ask the tough questions and make sure that somebody in administration or somebody down the road isn't doing something that could be illegal and taking money from the taxpayers of this community. That $14 million could have been used for some very good things in this district and for our students. And I know that we have a great superintendent in place now, so I know those iPads will be used to benefit our students and our teachers, but I wish we had never gotten here in the first place. I appreciate the 2 members that stood up and recognized there was a problem, and I want to caution the rest of you. In the future, we may be a prosperous district, but we do not have unlimited resources. So make sure, do the job for us, do the homework, do the research, make sure this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alfrey. Our next speaker will be Lexus Srilamsingha. I hope I pronounced that somewhat. No, I didn't. Well, I apologize.
Destroyed it. So we can hear what they are.
I will. Good evening, Fort Bend ISD Board of Trustees, administrators, teachers, staff, and all interested parents and parties. My name is Lexus C. Lansing, and I am the president of the International Business and Marketing Academy, currently located at George Bush High School. I have brought with me today Anthony Kuzan, our public relations coordinator, and Colin Miller, our treasurer. We are here to speak on behalf of International Business and Marketing Academy and the added value that provides the Fort Bend Independent School District, Bush High School, and the students that attend the IBMA Academy. It is my understanding that having academies throughout the district has its costs. In fact, I believe we are a large reason that keeps Bush High School in the 5A category. If our enrollment numbers were to drop by 150 academy students, it is very possible that we would become a 4A school. The cost of that alone would outpace any cost that has ever been spent on our academy. In this case, added value outweighs added expenses by a long shot. All of the academies are a great asset to every school that they are located in. Oftentimes, they go unnoticed, but the academies do a lot for their schools. You see, we join the academies because we want to specialize training that the academies offer. But we also see it as a launching opportunity towards successful leadership experiences that are sometimes not available at our zone campus. The criteria to enter into an academy are exceptional grades, discipline, attendance, and the ability to write well. These positive attributes are continually displayed throughout our tenure at our academy school. Bush High School is a great place to attend high school. This is how it was presented to me back when I was considering which one of the academies I would attend. As it turns out, I chose Bush High School, which happens to be the high school furthest from my home school, which would be Ridgepoint. Despite the additional time travel, I believe that my experiences have been worth it. Our IBMA Academy has also benefited Bush High School. We are 150 strong students that really believe in what is happening at Bush High School. We are and have been valedictorians, presidents of DECA, team captains of football and basketball, drill captains of Illusions dance team, and the list continues. Academies are very beneficial to the students that are involved in it as well. It is a well-known fact that the transition from middle school to high school can be very stressful and challenging. Academies recognize this and provide targeted support. The academy feels like a school within a school. The main advantage the academy gives its students is that we receive specific training for the career we are considering. The academy gives each of us our own pathway to help us reach our goals we have been working for. They help teach and show us what it will actually feel like and what we will have to do to pursue the career we are seeking. Please understand that the courage needed by myself and others like me to leave all our middle school friends
30 seconds.
and venture out of our comfort zone into an unfamiliar school. All the promises made by each and every academy coordinator have been met. We have been exposed to a unique learning opportunity that has already begun to pay dividends and will become a priceless experience for each Academy student throughout their academic working lives. These experiences are owed to all the students that have an interest in them. Thank you for your careful consideration of the value and merits of Fort Bend ISD Academies. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Srilam Singh. Our next speaker is Elizabeth Mora. Ms. Mora, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board, and Mr. Albright will keep track of the time and let you know when there are about 30 seconds remaining.
Hello, Mr. Dupree and Board of Trustees. If you recall, I stood before you at the July board meeting. Now I'm here to tell you about my experience with my son this year. My husband and I have been planning for my son's kindergarten year since we moved to Aliana in 2011 when he was 3 years old. By the time my son was 4 years old, I emailed Fort Bend ISD to inquire about ES 46. I received an email from FBISD's Chief Communications Officer stating that ES 46 would open fall of 2014. My husband and I made plans with this in mind. We decided that our son would come with me to my school this school year, then he would be able to start first grade at ES 46 for the 14-15 school year. When we heard at the June 10th board meeting that ES 46 would be postponed, we were stunned. We had believed in FBISD's promise that ES 46 would open for the 14-15 school year. My son was very excited at the Meet the Teacher, but I was worried when his teacher told me that he would be in a class of 38 students. Then came the first week of school, and it was the worst week for my son. He was picked on and called names. He would say things like, "Mommy, the kids don't like me," and they'd tell me I don't dress nice. By the second day of school, my son was shutting down and crying nightly that he didn't want to go to school. My husband and I decided to do something as we could not see our son crumble like that. My husband and I thought of our options, our homeschool or private school. We went to visit Holly, our homeschool. The front staff was friendly, and when I asked the registrar how many children were in the kindergarten classes, she said about 25. We took the registration packet home. Our next appointment was with the private school, which we were grateful enough to find that it wasn't full. In my heart, I still believed FBISD was our option, but when we realized that next year our son may have to attend Pecan Grove, this has been thrown around by a few of the board members, and then by second grade it could mean ES 46 or not, we knew our choice was clear. We chose private school. Now I'm happy to report that my son is doing great and has caught up with the rigorous curriculum. Our story has a happy ending. But I think about all the other families that cannot afford private school. My sister, who also lives in Aliana, has 3 children, ages 4 and under, and cannot afford private school. Or Michelle Yarbrough, who spoke at the August board meeting. She has 2 children and another due next month. My sister and Michelle both have children that will start kindergarten next fall. They are worried about next year, and I hope that this situation will be resolved soon. Others that can afford private school are already scouting out private schools in our area and will not put up with the mess that's happening at Oakland. Oakland has 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders outside in portable
30
buildings.
seconds.
These kids have been taught a secret knock to get in and out of the main building when they need to use the restroom. They also have 10 kindergarten classes, and I have spoken to a few of these parents, and they also question why ES 46 was postponed. Then we have Jordan, with over 900 students, and Holly at functional capacity. Some said the projections that the last demographer were made were off, not in our area. Our part of the district is overcrowded. I urge each of you to drive by our communities, not just Aliana, but all those communities that were affected by your decision on June 10th. This side of the district has been promised an elementary school since 2003. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mora. Our next speaker will be Carrie Waschenfelder.
Good evening, President Rice, members of the board, and Superintendent Dupree. The appointment of Mr. Dupree as the new superintendent has brought a sigh of relief from many quarters. There's a sense of promise that our working lives as educators will be better with less heavy-handed, unreasonable demands from campus administrators, more transparency in business dealings, and greater responsiveness from the admin building. With this presumption that change will make things better, we must be careful that the change process accurately identifies our problems. Right now, we have teacher rights being trampled on as the majority, at the majority of campuses across the district. A right to a duty-free 30-minute lunch is being whittled away as teachers are assigned to various duties. Teachers report losing their state-mandated planning and prep time because administrators ignore their rights and direct them to attend data meetings, horizontal meetings, vertical team meetings, grade level meetings, and special ARDs, forcing them to work 12-hour days to get their work done. These abuses must be investigated and corrected measures taken. While we re-examine the teacher-para workday, we must rethink our recent policy that has frozen the salaries of our veteran bus drivers, paraprofessionals, food service cafeteria workers, custodians, and secretaries. If after 28, 30, or 35 years with Fort Bend ISD, you may find yourself at the top of your grade code with no hope of a pay raise despite your years of dedicated service. New employees, your supervisor, and probably your boss in the admin building will get a pay raise, but not you. Every certified teacher that you see will get a 3% raise, but not you. In fact, everybody at the top of their grade code will be out of luck. No pay raise will be given to these employees, even though they face a higher cost of living, just like the rest of us. This patently unjust situation feels like a slap in the face, and the resulting low morale and feeling of humiliation will not serve our greater goals of building a world-class institution where we teach 21st century skills to cope in the global world of tomorrow. All of us deserve to be treated with fairness to
30
all,
seconds.
with a sense of fair play as we move together, coping together, without leaving any of us behind. We ask that this new policy be revoked and a new pay schedule voted that will grant the same pay raise to all employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Washingfelder. We'll now consider action on closed session items. Do we have any motions?
Yes, Mr. Rice. I move to propose the termination of Kenyon Rogers' term employment contract and authorize the superintendent to notify the employee in accordance with applicable law and district policy.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Grail James. We have a second by Mr. Bruce Albright. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Do we have any other motions?
Yes, Mr. President. I move to propose the termination of Jennifer Green's term employment contract and authorize the superintendent to notify the employee in accordance with the applicable law and district policy.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bruce Albright, a second by Mrs. Susan Holmbaum. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Mr. Rosenthal?
Mr. President, I move to appoint Laisha Kemp to the position of Assistant Principal assigned to Marshall High School.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Dave Rosenthal, a second by Mr. Bruce Albright. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I move to appoint Tamika Taylor to the position of Assistant Principal assigned to Travis High School.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Dave Rosenthal, a second by Mrs. Jenny Bailey. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Mrs. Bailey?
Yes, Mr. President. I move to appoint Lawrence Kusan to the position of Assistant Principal assigned to Hodges Bend Middle School.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Jenny Bailey, a second by Dr. Patsy Taylor. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much.
And one more. I move to appoint James Kirkpatrick to the position of Assistant Principal assigned to Krista McAuliffe Middle School.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Jenny Bailey, a second by Mrs. Grail James. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I move to appoint Stephen Bassett to the position of Chief Financial Officer.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Susan Holmbaum, a second by Mr. Bruce Albright. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Do we have any other items from closed session to bring forward at this time? Very well. We will now move into the consent agenda portion of our meeting this evening.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Before you read off the consent agenda, I'd like to move item 9E to action.
Okay.
Mr. Rice, I would also, on behalf of the administration, I'd like to ask that the board not consider item C5, college and career planning platform. We will bring that forth at a later meeting.
Very well. Item C5 is withdrawn. Item 9E is removed to the action item of our agenda this evening. Do we have any other amendments to the consent agenda at this time? If not,
can I make
yes.
my monthly announcement?
Yes, of course.
All these items that we will be taking up and voting on this evening were discussed in detail last Monday at our workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. And I might add, everyone is invited to those workshops always. So now to consider our consent agenda. Item 9A, which is to consider approval of minutes from the previous meetings listed as September 3rd, 2013, a called meeting and workshop. Meeting minutes from September 9th, 2013, a regular board meeting. Minutes from September 19th, 2013, Board Legal Counsel Review Committee meeting. I will not read all of those meeting minutes there. They're in your packet for your consideration. Consent Agenda 9B is consideration and possible approval and an acknowledgement of cash and non-cash donations. Specifically, the Fort Bend Education Foundation donated $20,000 to the Fort Bend ISD Organizational Development Department for use by the Teacher Leadership Consortium, and the Highlands Elementary PTO donated $12,843 to Highlands Elementary School to purchase subscriptions to Time for Kids and National Geographic, science lab supplies, student planners, various instructional materials, and mini blinds for the library. Consent Agenda 9C is for consideration and possible approval of purchases in excess of $50,000 and authorization for the superintendent or his designee to execute a contract and to exercise the option to execute subsequent contract renewals according to the terms and conditions for the attached procurement documents. Our first item is for band uniforms and related items for Kempner High School. Fort Bend ISD rotates the procurement of band uniforms throughout the district. A quote request on behalf of Kempner High School band was released requesting pricing for a complete uniform consisting of jackets, bib pants, gauntlets, headgear, and uniform accessories. A custom design sample was required. Each uniform was evaluated by the Fine Arts Director, Mr. James Drew, and Kempner High School Band Director, Mr. Brandon Hill. The purchase will be for approximately 200 complete uniforms. Future repairs and alterations to these uniforms will be completed under RFP 13-047KB, approved by the Board of Trustees on May 21st, 2013. The recommended vendor is Fred J. Miller Incorporated, a by-board cooperative vendor, in the amount of $70,300. You have the supporting information. The next item is for educational resource printing equipment and related items. Educational resource printing equipment consists of poster makers, cold laminators, awards makers, and die-cut machines. This type of equipment is routinely used in the Fort Bend ISD Teacher Center and at campuses throughout the district. Each vendor will provide goods and services related to this type of equipment, including service and warranty repairs. Resources created with this equipment and supplies aid in classroom and visual instruction. This solicitation will be a dual award to Advanced Graphics and Brooks Duplicator Company in an amount of $150,000. You have the supporting information there for your review. The next item is for basic employer-paid life, death, and accidental death and dismemberment insurance. Fort Bend ISD provides all employees with basic life and accidental death and dismemberment insurance in the amount of $25,000. Sun Life Financial is the district's current provider. The district's current life insurance program will expire on December 31st, 2013, and it was necessary to issue an RFP for coverage for a 2-year period with the option to renew for an additional 3 one-year periods. The district received proposals from 7 carriers. After thorough evaluation and review by the district's insurance consultants and staff, it was determined that Lincoln Financial Group provided the best overall value for Fort Bend ISD. There is an estimated savings of 16%, or $18,000 annually when compared to the current provider. And this award is in an amount of $96,495. You have the supporting information there. The next item is for HVAC filter products and related items. Consistent replacement of HVAC filters assists in the long-term sustainability of district HVAC equipment. Additionally, the proper maintenance of existing equipment contributes to energy efficiency in all district facilities. This procurement contains specifications for the filter and included standards from the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers, ASHRAE, as well as a minimum efficiency reporting value, or MERV rating. Each standard allows the district to procure filters that will sustain good air quality. 10 vendors responded to the RFQ, providing competitive pricing for all required filters. It is the recommendation of the Purchasing Department to award Strategic Filtration Incorporated and Air Filters, Inc. Both vendors provided pricing that will allow for consistent expenditures by the Facilities Department for the purchase of this commodity. And this is an award of $257,000. You have the supporting information for your review. And that item was withdrawn. Next item is actually 9C6 for the replacement of 3 police vehicles utilizing grant funds. At the June 10th, 2013 board meeting, a resolution was approved granting the submission of a grant application for new police vehicles. This grant, issued by the Emergency Vehicle Replacement Project, would fund 3 fully equipped police units. Recently, the Fort Bend ISD Police Department was notified that it was awarded $78,656 for the purchase of 3 new police vehicles. The intent of the 3 vehicles is to retire aging patrol units that have many miles and are requiring ongoing repairs. Chief Ryder and his staff have communicated with vendors on the Houston-Galveston Area Council Cooperative and have secured a hold on 3 2013 model Dodge Charger Police packaged vehicles. As the vehicle market becomes flooded with higher-priced 2014 vehicles, the purchase of the 3 2013 vehicles would be a beneficial cost savings to the district, allowing for greater use of the grant funds. The procurement of these vehicles through the HGAC Cooperative is an acceptable form of procurement under the TEA Code 44.031. The current quote for the 3 police package vehicles is $65,550. The remaining funds, as outlined on the summary, will be used for standardized Fort Bend ISD police equipment, as well as decals and graphics for the new vehicles. The Purchasing Department recommends the purchase of the 3 police package vehicles along with the additional equipment and graphics details. This is for the vendors Dallas Dodge, on-site decals, and Lone Star products and equipment in an amount of $78,656. Okay. Consent agenda item 9D, consideration and possible approval of an interlocal agreement between Fort Bend ISD and the City of Stafford for use of the Stafford Municipal Pool. Due to increased participation in the district's high school swimming program, the Don Cook Natatorium no longer has adequate space to accommodate swimmers from Clements, Dulles, Elkins, and Ridge Point high schools. High school swimmers typically train at the same time in the afternoons. The Fort Bend ISD Athletics Department has worked with the City of Stafford to develop a plan whereby the Dulles High School swim team will use the Stafford Municipal Pool exclusively for their practice. The estimated cost of the agreement is $2,880 for the Dulles High School swim team to utilize 6 lanes for 2.5 hours each day for 96 days at a rate of $2 per lane per hour. The term of the agreement will provide practice space during the 2013-14 swim season. Now we have...
That's it. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Grail James, a second by Mrs. Jenny Bailey. Do we have any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Albright.
Item number C6. I only have one question, and I think you answered it already, but I just want to, for the benefit of the folks that are here that weren't here for the workshop, we wanted to hurry up and get these 2013s. What always concerns me when I see these bids and they come from a Dallas vendor is that we had to go around probably 30 or 40 local Dodge dealers to get to Dallas to get theirs. And so if I heard what you said in the workshops, it was because this was one of the few dealers that had 2013s left, and we were able to get those secured, and it was a cost-benefit ratio there.
Yes, sir. Dallas Dodge is an approved vendor on the HGAC cooperative. The quote solicitation goes out to a number of vendors who are already pre-approved through that cooperative, and Dallas Dodge did respond with the 2013 models.
Not sure that tells me why we didn't utilize local vendors, but
well, we procured through the Houston Galveston Area Council. They already have a preset listing of vendors who are approved for vehicles. I understand that there are a few local dealers there, but we did not receive responses back from all of them.
Okay.
There were only a handful of vendors who did respond to our request for quotes.
That's what I was looking for. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. Rosenthal.
Ms. Leach, I think we discussed this last week, but how many employees are covered by the life insurance? About, I mean,
Well, the district covers all employees, so we have 9,000 employees. So every employee who is a full-time employee would receive that benefit.
okay. So it's like $10 per person, okay.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. We'll now move into the action portion of our agenda this evening, and we have consideration and possible approval of a resolution designating Grail James as delegate to the General Assembly and Jenny Bailey as alternate delegate to the General Assembly of the Houston Galveston Area Council for the year 2014. The bylaws of the Houston Galveston Area Council authorize each member independent school district to designate a delegate and an alternate to the Houston Galveston Area Council General Assembly. The delegates and alternates must be duly elected members of the school district's Board of Trustees. The 2014 board representative and alternate will begin their terms of office in January 2014. Following the selection of independent school district delegates, a meeting of the General Assembly delegates will be scheduled to select the 2014 delegate and alternate to represent the independent school districts on the Houston Galveston Area Council Board of Directors. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bruce Albright, a second by Mrs. Susan Holmbaum. Do we have discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Consent agenda, action item 10A is for consideration and possible approval of TEA waiver for class size at 32 elementary schools. According to the board policy EEB legal, the district is required to enroll no more than 22 students in each class in grades kindergarten through grade 4. However, due to budgetary constraints since the 2011-12 school year, the district has sought TEA waivers to operate with elementary class sizes that are greater than the required 22-to-1 ratio. For the 2013-14 school year, the district adopted a budget in support of the following class size ratios. Kindergarten through grade 3, a ratio of 22-to-1, and for grade 4, a ratio of 24-to-1. For grades kindergarten through grade 3, in practice, this means that when all classes on a campus at the given grade level reach 23 students, the addition of a 24th student in any one class prompts the hiring of an additional teacher in that grade level. At the 4th grade level, the staffing ratio is 24-to-1. Therefore, when all classes reach 25 students, the 26th student prompts the hiring of an additional teacher in that grade level. In some cases, when a principal is unable to identify a satisfactory teacher candidate, we have approved their request to operate at class sizes that exceed the established practice. We have completed the Texas Class Size Enrollment Survey for kindergarten through grade 4. Based upon the results of the survey, we are requesting approval of our request to apply for a waiver of 22-to-1 class size for 32 schools shown on the attached list. Pursuant to Texas Education Code 25.113, notice of class size, written notice of these exceptions will be provided to the parent or guardian of each student affected by the exception. As a point of reference, we have attached information showing the total number of classes at each grade level that exceed the mandated 22-to-1 ratio and the number that exceed the established Fort Bend ISD ratio discussed above. We are continuing to seek teachers for many of the classrooms that remain over the 22-to-1 ratio. The attached list will be updated in advance of the October 14th, 2013 board meeting. You have the supporting information there before you. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve is presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Bruce Albright, a second by Mr. Dave Rosenthal. Do we have discussion?
Yes. At Monday night's meeting, we discussed bringing in additional aides, and I wondered what the status of that was.
I'm trying. My understanding is that we have already hired one. They continue to interview, and we are still looking for teachers, and we'll continue to look for aides.
And someone mentioned in one of our conversations this evening about Region 4 as an option for hiring. Is that an
Yes,
area?
ma'am. We had not previously tapped that resource fully, and we have done so with one of our high schools in some movement, and we'll continue, I believe, to go back there.
Could we have an update at the November meeting to see where aides have been placed in regard to our listing of classes that are over and teachers, and in other words, bring it all up to date so we see the difference in where we sit today and hopefully in 30 days have made some improvement?
Yes, ma'am, we can do that. One of the things that I want to put out there is that because of the Texas law that requires that employees are fingerprinted, and we really don't have control over the time that background check takes with the fingerprinting, so we may interview and recommend, and actually that wouldn't be visible in our staffing reports until perhaps December or January. But we could give you a staffing update, I believe, Mr. Spears.
So could it take till January to get aides in these classrooms?
Sometimes it does take a while to get the fingerprinting and background check approved. Sometimes it's very short.
Is there, what kind of control do we have there as far as the companies we use? Or
So those are a recommendation process what we kind of graphed out, and it could go anywhere from 3 days to approximately a month to 2 months, depending on the certification, depending on whether or not we can get all the information needed to recommend this person forward. Just lately, we've done a better job with bringing people in from a process standpoint, but depending on the information they provide us, it tells us how long the process will take.
Can we have additional companies that do the background check or the fingerprinting, or we only can use one? Is it a state?
With regard to the fingerprinting, the background check is done by the Texas Department of Public Safety. We don't have a choice about that. The fingerprinting is done through that system. And so sometimes there is a backlog with the system. But that is the safest, and under the law we have to do it that way, but that is the safest way, because then they tap into all systems with the fingerprinting.
And do we do background checks here?
No, we don't.
We don't.
So we do the initial name search. You'll recall that you approve that every year with the Safe Schools system. But that is at the applicant stage, not when they're recommended. At that point, when they're recommended for hire, then we do the fingerprint.
So there's 3 processes. There's a certification process. There's the fingerprinting process, which we do something basically internal to Texas and then external to Texas. So there's basically 3 to 4 stages before we can say, yes, they can move forward to the offer stage.
What would hold us up from putting somebody on as a probationary employee?
With regard to Senate Bill 8, that requires us to have the fingerprinting done for all of our employees after, I believe it was 2007 or 2008. We wouldn't want to have an employee in the classroom with children that may come back with anything from felony conviction to, it could be anything. It could be murder. It could be something financial. But we would not want to risk having our children with an employee that might have that background.
It just 2 months just seems unrealistic to me, but I'm not sitting in your shoes, so I don't know. I just would like to think that somehow we could shorten that process. I don't know what to say. I mean, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But at the same point, we're sitting here trying to solve a problem that's immediate, and to think that we'd have to wait 2 months down the road is extremely frustrating for me. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like for the classroom teachers.
And I hear the same feedback from schools, by the way, and on substitutes too. So I'm just wondering if we can take a look at that.
One of the things that we've been talking about since we have our new Chief Human Resource Officer is being more aggressive in our recruiting, and also trying to move our timelines so that we are out there before some of the other markets with which we can compete. We haven't necessarily had the best advantage to be in that position because we were in transition last year. And I think that with Mr. Spears, I feel confident that we'll begin to eliminate some of this.
So you don't feel 2 months should be the length of time either?
Not at all.
Okay.
I believe we can get
Just
it.
checking.
We can get it down to about a week, but there's a few changes we're making to streamline that process.
Well, the faster you can get those aides in the classroom and more teachers, we would appreciate it.
I agree.
Top priority for me.
Yes, we don't want them to quit.
And that's another reason why enrollment projections are so important.
Right.
And some of our schools that are overcrowded were not projected to be.
Maybe some of our already fingerprinted substitute teachers would like to hire on as full-time aides.
There is a fast, there's a fingerprint and background search company on Bissonnet. Are you aware of that one?
They can't do it. It has to go through the DPS, she said.
Why do we have to go through the DPS?
Because the law requires us to process them through the fact clearinghouse. That is tied into SBEC, so information is sent to TEA as well when these employees, they become part of the system. And so at any time, an employee would not have to, although they are required by policy to alert us if they were to be arrested, both TEA and the district are alerted whenever employees are fingerprinted, go through the process again due to an arrest or charge, some type of conviction, anything that happens while they're employed with us as well.
So you're sure there's only one place we can go to get this done?
Well, it's not just one place. They're sent to several places in the area.
The
But
one
it's-
on Bissonnet won't work?
I'm not quite sure, but we could definitely check if that's part of the fact clearinghouse.
I think it is.
And it may be that we send them there, but we can definitely check on that.
Okay.
As we're improving our processes, we're going to benchmark other districts and see how they do this, because there's certain components of it that's taking it out a ways. So as we look at each process, we'll condense that time, get us hopefully within a week on each offer.
And do the prospective employee pay for the fingerprinting? So is that ever an issue too?
Yes.
Yeah. It's around $50 or $60, is that right?
I remember about 47 for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's why all the new people on the front row are going, yes.
Are your CBC searches only done in Texas, or are they, can they be used out of state as well?
Those are tied into
Texas?
not only Texas, but the FBI.
Okay.
So that is why, I believe that's why the state requires us to go through that process.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Our next item is 10B, consideration and possible approval of changes to the district's self-funded health insurance program. The health insurance fund had a deficit balance of $10,254,884 as of June 30th, 2013. This deficit balance is reflected as a committed fund balance in the general fund balance as of June 30th, 2013, and the district will transfer that balance from the general fund to the health insurance fund in September 2013. The health insurance fund incurred a shortfall of $1,973,795 for July and August 2013 and is expected to continue to incur deficits each month through December 2013. The administration will review the deficit balances for the last 6 months of calendar year 2013 and will commit the deficit balances in the general fund financial statements. This would ensure the health insurance plan is solvent through December 31, 2013. To ensure that the health plan is fiscally solvent for calendar year 2014, the district proposes the following changes. A one-time district contribution level increase from $420 to $532 per employee per month for calendar year 2014. An increase in employee contributions for the Open Access Plan, Local Plus Plan, and the Choice Plan. The Open Access Plan design changes as follows. The deductible increases from $1,000 per individual and $2,000 for family to $1,250 per individual and $2,500 for family. The deductible for out-of-network coverage increases from $2,000 per individual and $4,000 for family to $3,000 per individual and $6,000 per family. Out-of-network OAP plan office visits, preventive care, inpatient hospital care, and outpatient care will change from 40% to 50% after the deductible. The estimated district cost to increase the employer contributions for calendar year 2014 is $7,568,063. This cost would be broken down as follows. General Fund, $7,113,980. Child Nutrition Fund, $291,648. Other grant funds, $162,435, for a grand total of $7,568,063. 50% of the total cost would be incurred during the 2013 to 14 school year, which would mean an additional impact to the general fund of $3,556,990. The remaining 50% would be budgeted for 2014-15. In 2013-14, this increase would be funded from one of two sources: excess fund balance in the Workers' Compensation Fund, which is currently $4,762,832, and or unbudgeted state revenue for fiscal year 2012-13. During the 2013-14 budget workshop, we shared with the board that the administration would possibly recommend allocating a portion of the unbudgeted 2012-13 revenue for this purpose. Employee contributions would increase from $10 to $35 per 24 pay period, depending on the plan and coverage type chosen. This increase equates to anywhere from 6% to 29%, depending on the plan and coverage type. The percentage increase for the employer contribution is 27%. The average teacher in the district received a raise of $1,749. If a teacher selected the employee-only OAP plan coverage, the annual increase in premium would be $360. If a teacher selected family OAP plan coverage, the annual increase in premium would be $840. The increase in total plan costs for the self-funded health insurance fund for 2014 over 2013 is attributable to several factors, including overall expected health care costs in the United States, the continued expected level of catastrophic claims and implementation of the Affordable Care Act. In the United States, health care costs are expected to rise anywhere between 5 to 6% in 2014. Although this level of increase is lower than previous year's increases, health care costs are still increasing. In addition, the district's self-funded health insurance plan continues to incur substantial catastrophic claims, which make up 25% of the total medical claims as of June 30, 2013. These claims are 30% above industry averages for the period ending June 30, 2013. The district offers many strong wellness initiatives throughout the calendar year to mitigate potential catastrophic claims. The administration continues to monitor compliance with the Affordable Care Act. The district sent out letters to employees in September 2013 regarding the new health insurance marketplace coverage as required by the Affordable Care Act. In addition, a comparative effective research fee based on the number of plan members will be payable during 2014. The district will need to ensure that efficient systems and processes are in place to track all employees' time so that the district can identify employees eligible for health insurance as outlined in the Affordable Care Act. According to a recent survey conducted by the Society of Human Resource Management, nearly 1 in 5 employers has already increased participants' share of plan premiums, and an additional quarter of respondents plan to increase the portion that employees pay for their premiums over the next year. During the coming months, the district will form a benefits committee to review the district's health insurance plan and the options available to the district for providing health coverage for future years. Pending approval of this recommendation, district personnel will make benefit presentations at 4 different district locations multiple times throughout the day so that employees are informed of the changes to the plans prior to open enrollment, which will be held from October 28, 2013 to November 8, 2013. Do we have a motion?
Motion to accept is presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bruce Albright. We have a second by Mrs. Susan Holmbaum. Do we have discussion? Mr. Albright.
just for those of you who are in the audience, this plan was discussed at length in our workshop session, but I just wanted to recap a couple of quick things. One is that we don't have much choice about having to raise the amount and that the employees are paying, but I wanted to make it perfectly clear that the district raised the amount that they're paying triple by the increase that what the employees are paying into the plan. So we are attempting to minimize the cost to the employee as best we can. And right at the moment, there's not an end in sight for us as far as cost, because what many people don't realize is that our claim ratios are out of whack with what the national average is. So when we do our projections, we're actually going to have to probably somewhere down the road set up a reserve for these deficits that keep occurring, because we can't keep having a plan that runs $10 million a year in the hole, because we have a lot of excess catastrophic claims. And so this is the best compromise that we could come up with, and so that the employees still have good, solid insurance and at somewhat of an affordable cost. Similar type insurance to what's being presented here in the private industry sector for family coverage would probably be in the neighborhood of $1,200 a month, and for individual coverage would be in excess of $800 a month. So the cost is being subsidized pretty greatly by the district, and I think it's important to point that out.
Thank you, Mr. Albright. Do we have any other comments? Mrs. Holmbaum?
I was just wondering if Mr. Dupree might just briefly give your plan for next year and how we're going to approach insurance.
Yes. The plan involves, it's going to center around an insurance benefits committee that'll be formed, made up a number of staff members. My typical plan is to have at least one representative from every campus. And they can be all different staff levels. It can certainly be teachers, but we also like paraprofessionals and other professional staff as well from all different pay grades, and also from different departments throughout the organization, from facilities to the departments in this building, custodians and that kind of thing as well. And the intent of the committee is to really provide a deeper education to everyone who is who's involved in that committee, so that they can then help to make informed decisions on behalf of the district. Because it's easy sometimes just to see the open enrollment documents and make a choice for your family, but when you really have to look deeper and more broadly about the organizational cost and how that affects the offerings we can provide for our staff, it really opens people's eyes about the reality of kind of the national trends, state level trends, and our local trends. And so the intent would be to provide that deep level of education with our insurance consultants in the room, with our finance staff in the room, and then allow them to help shape the craft of the plan. I mean, we've talked before, there's a number of options we have, ranging all the way from entering the state, TRS active care plan to keeping it fully insured or self-funded the way it is today, and changing the plan structures, or going fully insured with the company and we just bid it and we get the rates they get bid for us. So we want to bring all of that to the table through the committee. The timeline, my goal would be is that we can get the committee going by the end of this calendar year, so that early in the spring we get a lot of the heavy work done as we really look out to plan for 2015, because we need to be able to have some indication of where we're headed by the time we develop the 2014-15 budget for July.
Thank you. And on kind of that note, the education part, I noticed there's going to be meetings out. And I think that's one of the most difficult things, because but people will generally say things like, well, my husband's company, they only pay this, and my next door neighbor only pay this. And they're not comparing benefits typically. And if you're not comparing benefits, it's a wasted conversation. And I'm hoping that whatever department is responsible for that communication really addresses that issue. it's the whole difference. And I was really pleased that we didn't change benefits. We changed a little bit in the deductible, but in your day-to-day life and what you pay for prescriptions and doctor's appointments and that thing, which really hits everybody, I think, the most, we were able to keep those the same with the district increasing their portion. So, you don't see a lot of enthusiasm up here because we're not excited about it. We're not happy with it, but we feel like everyone has done the best they can do in a bad situation, and we're in hopes that these meetings next year and a group effort, maybe we get a better deal. Who's to say right now?
Thank you, Mrs. Holmbaum. Any other comments, Mr. Rosenthal?
We had also just talked about looking and kind of trying to join with maybe some of the other districts to increase our risk pool a little bit.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Our last action item this evening is to consider nomination of individuals for election to the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District Board of Directors, or the CAD Board. I will read some summary information and ask Mrs. James to make a motion, after which is duly seconded. We will have discussion. So this is for consideration and possible nomination of individuals for election to the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. In accordance with the Property Tax Code Section 6.03, the Board of Trustees may nominate individuals to serve on the Board of Directors of the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District. Texas Property Tax Code Section 6.03 sets out procedures for electing directors for county appraisal districts and requires the governing body of each voting unit to submit names of nominees for the boards of directors by adopting a resolution. The chief appraiser has asked that the names of nominees be forwarded to him before October 15, 2013. Wow. After receiving all nominees, the chief appraiser will prepare a ballot of those nominated and send it to the appropriate taxing units. Each unit will then cast its votes by resolution and return to the chief appraiser before December 17, 2013. The voting entitlement for Fort Bend ISD is 1,365 votes. Two current members, Al Abramczyk and Jim Key, were nominated and elected by the Fort Bend ISD Board of Trustees in 2011. Do we have a motion, Mrs. James?
Yes, Mr. Rice, I move to nominate Jim Key for election to the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Second. Mr. President, I move to...
Well, wait. Were you done with your motion, Mrs. James?
I was, because I delegated part of my motion to Dr. Taylor.
I see.
I know that's not very efficient.
So we have a motion and a second for Mr. Jim Key. Well, I think, can we...
Yeah, we have discussion and then, sorry.
And then we will vote on, then we will have another motion. Okay. Very well. So we have a motion by Mrs. James and a second by Mr. Albright, and now we can have discussion. So,
yep. And then we can vote, and then we can nominate someone else.
Very well. Do we have any comments or discussion?
Discussion. This is a first for me. I don't know if it's a first for anybody else out there. And I guess Mr. Key's already serving, and he's been recommended by CAD, by Fort Bend Central. Just want to make sure I got that right. That's it?
Yes.
No, we elected him to serve on the board in 2011.
Yeah.
The CAD doesn't, we nominate.
Okay.
So, if you wanted your grandfather to serve or something, you could nominate him.
It would be hard for him to.
Okay, well, my dad
would.
keeps saying he wants to serve, but there's no way I'd nominate him to put him on the board. So it would be up to us to bring forth any nomination any year.
I would just add that it's in my view, I think it's...
Do as many as 5.
Well, the term is, it's a 2-year term. I believe it's in Fort Bend ISD's best interest to nominate just 2. And that is because that means all of the votes that we have, 1,365, are then shared by at least 2 of our candidates. The CAD board is responsible for all evaluation of all property taxes, the property valuations on which those business owners pay taxes to Fort Bend ISD. So it is important for us to have people who are going to participate and attend to their duties in a responsible manner. They also hear appeals and that sort of thing, but we have benefited this past year from rising property values, which have helped us. And so I'll just say that. So now we've had this. Any other discussion on Mr. Key? Hearing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Dr. Taylor.
Okay. Mr. President, I move to nominate Al Abramchek for election to the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Patsy Taylor, a second by Mrs. Grell James. Do we have discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Mr. President, I move to nominate Nancy Henschel to the Fort Bend Central District Appraisal Board of Directors.
Okay. Do we have a second? Very well. Motion fails for lack of a second. Do we have any other nominations this evening? Very well.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn by Mrs. Holmbaum, a second by Mr. Albright. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
That was awkward.